childhood trauma. If I see men standing by the robots, I get scared because mhlawumbe on hijacker and rape her, kill me. You know, I'm always thinking about rape. So I lost my mother when I was 14. I'm going through a stage. So by a teenager, I started dating, she wasn't there. I lost my virginity, she wasn't there. Even till this day, I still do need my mother. Hello beautiful people, my name is Buggz and welcome to Hearty Moments with Buggz, where we share tips and stories on millennial motherhood and we dip a bit into fashion and lifestyle. So on today's video, we are talking about childhood trauma. A lot of us have these childhood traumas, but we don't really reflect or pay attention to them because we're like, it's a thing in the past and yeah, it just happened long ago. So yeah, and we don't actually realize how much it impacts us negatively when we are adults. And we don't pay attention to that because you're like, okay, no, but I just have a fear of these things because it just happened. And you know, it's something that happened back in the past. So knowing your childhood traumas is a way of also getting to know yourself. It's another way of self-awareness. So today we are talking all about childhood traumas. So what is childhood trauma? Childhood trauma is anything that happened between the ages of 0 to 18 years, anything hurtful or anything bad, anything that comes up as a bad memory to you when you are a child. So childhood traumas don't necessarily have to be big major events or hurtful events. It could be something small because some of us actually don't pay attention to the childhood traumas because you're like, no, it's nothing serious that happened. It's just small because someone had a childhood trauma of being physically abused, you know. So you take your childhood trauma lightly. Like a childhood trauma could be getting an injury at a sports game at school, and you grow up having a fear of playing any type of sports or engaging in anything, in any activity that has to do with your physical body because you got that injury when you were young. And that alone is a childhood trauma because now you have to take care of your body, your body as you grow up, as you get old. Like you constantly have to take care of yourself through exercise. And some people have those childhood traumas because you got injured and you don't want to do anything. You don't want to play any sports because you have this fear of getting injured again. And again, childhood trauma could be because you were physically abused when you were a child. Okay, so there are things that are generally known as childhood traumas, and those things include physical abuse, emotional abuse, divorce or separation of parents, abandonment, or losing a loved one. So all of those things are childhood traumas, and there are a few more, but yeah, that's the ones that I can mention now. Okay, so in order for you guys to understand this whole concept here, childhood trauma, I'll tell you guys about my childhood traumas. So I have 3, and the first one is that I lost my mother. Some of you, I don't know if you're new here, you'll have to go watch a video that I did, I think 3 or 4, 6 months ago. A video of me actually telling you guys, like there's 3 videos if I'm not mistaken, of me explaining how I lost my mother, my relationship with my mother, like how close we were and all of that. So those who know can know I lost my mother when I was 14. And I like to think that was a very young age. Some people have lost their mothers at a way younger age than that. But for me, I'm doing this thing, I'm like, because I lost my mother when I was 14, at least I was old. And it's like now it doesn't matter because I can still remember her and I was a bit old. But that's not the point. The point is that it's a trauma to me, no matter how old I was. No matter if you are 30, okay, that is not a childhood trauma, but that is a traumatic experience that you grow up, especially losing a parent. You don't get over that kind of thing. It does get better, but it doesn't heal, unfortunately. So I lost my mother when I was 14, and you can imagine being a 14-year-old teenager who lost their mother I'm going through a stage. So by teenager, I started dating, she wasn't there. I lost my virginity, she wasn't there. It's just a whole lot of things. I gave birth, I got married. Even till this day, I still do need my mother. So there's a lot of things that I went through alone because I did not have a mother. And that is a trauma on its own because you are a young child. Like for me, I was young. I lost my mother and I didn't have my father present in my life. And then there was a time where I went to him to reach out and he was not interested. So can you imagine what that did to me? I was only 15 when I reached out to my father and he rejected me. So obviously that leads to low self-esteem. You know, it damages you. But okay, we go through things and we grow. So yeah, I did go through the most when I lost my mother, and I still think about it till today. As I had said, unfortunately, this childhood trauma you don't forget. It does get better. Like you get used to living without your mother. You get used to being in the world alone. I'm not alone. I have family. I have siblings, but in a way, you are alone because mama is the most important person you can have. So yeah, that is a childhood trauma, number one. And then my second childhood trauma was almost being raped when I was 6 or 7. I'm not quite sure which age I was in, but what I remember, I was very young. I was between 6 and 7. And for me to still remember what happened that day, it shows that it is a childhood trauma. And I didn't think about it as a childhood trauma until I was preparing for this video. So I think my mother went away for something, for work or whatever. I don't remember. But I remember that I was left with my siblings. And umuntu endimkhumbulayo nanishike naye is my sister, uNolili Ndizemva kwakhe. So umama left, and then she sent my sister, or she left money, and she sent my sister to go buy me into because Dandizithanda izinto ezimnandi. So she went to buy me a banana. That was my favorite. Chips and a whole lot of snacks. And then wahamba yedwa sister wam andisakundibana nje nabani endlini. And then she came back with those snacks. Umama wabesehambile. And then Mama left me money as well. I think it was 10 rand. And you know, as a child, when you get money, you get excited immediately. You want to go to the shop and buy yourself whatever. No bikho janki late when I just want to go to the spaza shop. So that was me. I took the money, went to the shop, and I was not allowed to go to the shops alone. I had to get my sister to accompany me all the time if I wanted something from Espaza. So on this day, usiswam obviously we say suka down to buy junk for me. And here I am to Kaleluki Espaza, and she was annoyed because I was a very annoying child. She was annoyed. She's like, no, she's not going to go with me to Espaza, and I'm not allowed to go to Espaza anyway. So I must just sit down and eat whatever I have. So, okay, I was a very stubborn child. I still am. I went ahead and went to the shops. As I went, because it was a Sunday, I went to the shop. There was a man following me. So he was following me, and it was quiet, okay? Quiet Sunday. And I thought, no, or something. But there was something in me that had a fear about he's following me. Okay, so I went to the shop. When I got to the gate by a shop, it was closed. So ndijike. And then he stops and says, "Ye wena." And I'm like, "Hayibo. Ndijike ndime futhi athi." Oh, and then he unzips his pants and he shows me his thingy. And then after that, I remember everything. I remember he was wearing brown pants. He had a belt on. I remember his face. He was very dark in complexion. So he showed me his thing and he was like, "Uyayazi lento." And I'm like, "No." And then he's like, "Uyayifuna." And then I just ran. I didn't even answer the question. Ndabaleka. But fortunately for me, he wasn't chasing me or anything. Like, he just continued going where he was going. And then I ran until Nfeka. Mind you, I was a very big baby. Like not baby, but I was a very big child. So then this dude like, and can you imagine? I was crying, and my sister was I told her I was very traumatized, to an extent that today that thing traumatized around amadoda walking, but we'll get to that. Let me explain my third childhood trauma. My third childhood trauma, which is growing up without a father. So my father was not present in my life from when I was not even born. I was still in my mother's womb, and then he was not present. So I got birthed by my mother, ndangena apha emhlabeni utata engekho empilweni yam. But as I grew up, I think I was 5 or 6 probably. Umama uyatsho uba ke wayendisa kutata and stuff like that. But I do remember, I think I was 6, 7, 8, because when I was 6, he bought me a dress. Like, ziyabaleka izinto andenzela zona utata and the times where I spent time with him. And I don't think I've actually spent more than 2 hours with my dad. So basically, andimazi. But ke he passed away now, so ke mandithi bendingamazi. So growing up without a father was very difficult for me. And loo nto nayo ndiyibona when I'm old, because there's a video that I did again, speaking about a story when I stole money from my mother, and I was in grade 5, so I was 11. I stole money and I wanted to impress friends. So I really think I had issues within myself, or I could say I had daddy issues, because I remember that and most of my schoolmates or classmates had fathers in their lives, had present fathers. They would talk about utata and stuff like that. So those things would get to me, because now that I remember, I think there was 2 other girls and then me and bakhumbulayo that didn't have fathers, that lived with their mothers only. So I would even lie to and say my mother and my father are married, but my father is not staying at home because he works in Matat, so he only comes when he's not busy with work, blah, 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 blah. Like, I would lie. Even the money that I used to steal when I get to my friends, because hostel school, and so the kids who used to carry 100 rand, 200 to school, were kids who stayed at the hostel because they are not with their parents, obviously, or kids who used to stay with their relatives because their parents are not there. So it was understandable that umntwana abe 100 rand because mama kumnikile mhlambe for the whole month, but ayiphathe esikolweni. So with my case, babebuza Bible, why uphathe imali engaka uhlala nomama wakho? I'm like, no, utata akekho uhlala ematatela, so he gave me this money. Don't, yabo. So xa sendiyicinga ngoku yayingekho normal laa nto ndandiyenza, and the fact that I used to lie, because these other 2 girls endindixelela ngazo, they never lied. They were honest about, no, we have single parents, but I don't know how it affected them, because obviously akho mnandi ukhula ungenatata while seeing abanye abantwana benabo tata. But ke zange bona yaba affecta le ndlela yandaffecta ngayo uba mna ndifike to a point where I would lie about having a father present in my life. So those are my 3 childhood traumas. So now I'm going to further explain how they impacted myself in a later stage in life, like now. Okay, the first one was, I'm not sure which one I explained first. It is the one that, okay, because I wrote them down in their order. Okay, it's losing my mother. So the childhood trauma where I lost my mother impacted me in a negative way, because now that I'm old, I have a fear of losing the loved ones that I already have in my life. For instance, I'm overprotective of my kids, but I'm getting better now. Before, I was a wreck. Like, I would, the slightest cry, like, umntwana ekhala nditsibe. I'm not sure if it was postpartum depression or what, because I wasn't diagnosed by a doctor, but my family suspected that I had postpartum depression because I didn't look quite normal. But even after the 3 months they were born, like after they were 3 months going forward, I was still overprotective of my kids. And I still am a bit, but I'm getting better. With my husband as well, like when he travels, because he travels a lot, I always think of incidents about, because he's taking a flight, what if the plane crashes? I'm always thinking of the worst scenarios that could happen to him and losing him. I'm always thinking of myself, like I'm always thinking of the worst. I'm an overthinker, but I don't think normal and God forbid those things will not happen. But I always think of those things, even with my brother, my sisters. I'm always thinking of the worst, like nobumntu uthi uyatravelisha okanye wenza noba yintoni. I'm like, yo, angehlelwe ukuthi nokuthi, and ndizigcina ngaphakathi izinto ndicinga, because I feel like there are major things too, but ndizicinge, like, how do I even think of that? How do I get there? So I think, yeah, but I'm working on it. I've been to therapy with my husband, but it wasn't necessarily on my childhood traumas. But I think in the near future, I will go back to therapy and just better myself in these conditions that I'm under. But overthink. So my second childhood trauma is the one that I was almost raped. Again, I think because that man didn't physically touch me, or he wasn't close to me, he was probably 10 or less than 10 meters away from me, I feel like it's not a big issue because he just showed me his thing and that was it. He didn't chase me or anything. But it is a trauma to me for the fact that I was so young and I still remember. So I am scared of being alone in public places. I'm scared of Uber. I'm scared of Bolt, especially now because there are stories of these Uber drivers kidnapping girls, and like the stories of women getting killed in South Africa. It's just a lot, and it's also adding on my trauma. Now, I'm scared of Ubers, Bolts, walking alone in a quiet place. I'm always looking behind my shoulder. But I come to Landla, if there's a man, I'm scared. I don't want to phone, he's going to mug me. Who's coming to fetch me, you know? It's just a lot. And when I'm driving as well, I'm scared. What if I get hijacked by a man? If I see men standing by the robots, I get scared because mhlawumbe on hijacker and rape her, kill me. You know, I'm always thinking about rape. The day I found out that I'm pregnant with girls, I was like, no way. Because when I was pregnant, I desperately wanted boys because I didn't want to birth girls and constantly worried about my kids. Like now I fear that when my kids are older, like busy teenagers, they'll want to go out with their friends. And I don't want to be that mother or and hog my kids and want them to be around me all the time. They have to go out and socialize and be with abantwana that they are their ages. So I think it's something that I need to work on because, wow, I fear for my, like, I can't believe in the TV, like people getting raped, abantwana getting raped. I always think of my kids. What if, I'm like, what would I do? I would lose my mind, you know, and I fear for myself as well and all the women that are in my life. So it has impacted me in that way, that I almost got raped when I was 6 or 7, I'm not sure. So the third one is growing up without my father. Growing up without my father, I think it negatively impacted me in a way that I had this thing, I realized, I don't remember how old I was. I think it was after my mother's death. I realized, okay, I have a low self-esteem and I've been having this low self-esteem. And when I thought of it, I was like, nobody remember. And especially when guys who used to ask me out, at times I was like, a guy like this asking me out, like Dinjani. It took some time to understand that I am actually very beautiful and I'm very attractive. So I wouldn't understand when popular guys came, you know, or handsome guys used to ask me out, because Ndinje. And to a stage where when I started dating, I was a very insecure girlfriend. I was not confident. Like it's just a lot. And I think these things are based on me having daddy issues, you know. So it's something that I am trying to work on even today. It's hard, guys. It's not easy. But I think in 2013, if I'm not mistaken, there's a lot of friends that I had that had a low self-esteem. From 2013 going forward, I had a lot of friends that I met that had low self-esteem, but in a way, I tried to empower them today. Like at my baby shower, I had a friend of mine tell me that the way she's so happy that I'm in her life, because when she met me, she had a low self-esteem. I was there. I empowered her. I made her feel better about herself. Today, she has a very high self-esteem. She believes she's beautiful, and I can see it every day because I have her on WhatsApp. We don't talk every day, but you can see man through his stories and stuff. Not that you can see 100% what they're going through, but I can see the improvement from back then. I could see it even when we were still interacting on a daily basis. She has grown into loving herself and loving her body and everything about herself. So namke, I grew to have low self-esteem phezulu, but sometimes I felt like it was just something to cover up my low self-esteem and pretend that my self-esteem was very high. So I'm still confused on that. Something that I still need to work on even now, because you see now I lost weight when I was pregnant, gave birth, lost weight, I was skinny, people were gossiping about me. I gained weight. And now that in gaining weight, I do feel like I have a low self-esteem, you know. But it's something that I must work on so that in the years where I must love myself, whether I am thin or I am thick, because at the end, Gesana, I am beautiful, you know. So, yeah, those are the childhood traumas and how they impacted my adulthood. So if you enjoyed this video, please like and comment down below and tell me your childhood traumas if you are comfortable to do so. No matter how small, no matter how big, it still matters. Thank you so much for joining me today. Don't forget to subscribe if you are new here. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for the support. Continue to do so. Until next time, bye.